Kalen Thorne moved silently through the dense forest, his team following in disciplined formation. The alien world of New Terra was alive with the sounds of unfamiliar wildlife, and the thick canopy above filtered the sunlight into a dappled mosaic on the forest floor. Every step was deliberate, every breath controlled. They were on high alert, knowing that an ambush could come at any moment. "Stay sharp, team. We've got movement." His sharp eyes scanned the shadows, detecting the slightest disturbance in the undergrowth. His team responded with a series of affirmative clicks, their senses just as heightened. Suddenly, the tranquil silence was shattered by the screech of an alien battle cry. The air filled with the acrid smell of ozone as plasma bolts zipped past, scorching the trees. Kalen reacted instinctively, his body a blur of motion, as he dove for cover behind a large, moss-covered boulder. "Contact! Engage at will!" Kalen shouted, his voice calm yet commanding. His team sprang into action, their training kicking in as they moved fluidly to counter the ambush. Kalen emerged from cover, his eyes locking onto an alien soldier charging at him with a wickedly curved blade. The alien, a tall, muscular figure with green, scaly skin and wide, predatory eyes, swung its weapon with lethal intent. Kalen sidestepped the attack, grabbing the alien's wrist and twisting with brutal efficiency. The blade clattered to the ground as the alien howled in pain. "No weapons? Are you insane?" The alien soldier spat, disbelief etched on its face. "Humans don't need them," Kalen replied coolly, his grip unrelenting. With a swift motion, he disarmed the alien, sending it sprawling to the ground. All around him, his team was engaged in fierce hand-to-hand combat. Lyra, his second-in-command, delivered a series of rapid strikes to an alien, her movements precise and lethal. Despite the alien's superior technology, the human commandos fought with unmatched ferocity and coordination. Kalen's heart pounded as he surveyed the battlefield. These weren't ordinary soldiers. They were the vanguard of a larger force. The realization hit him like a sledgehammer. This was just the beginning. "Fall back to the outpost," Kalen ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to regroup and fortify our position." His team responded immediately, disengaging from the fight and retreating through the forest. Plasma bolts continued to rain down around them, but their movements were swift and calculated. Kalen brought up the rear, ensuring no one was left behind. As they reached the edge of the forest, Kalen glanced back. Through the trees, he could see more alien soldiers advancing, their numbers overwhelming. His mind raced as he strategized their next move. The safety of New Terra hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. "Move, now!" Kalen urged, pushing his team forward. The outpost was their only hope of mounting a defense against the impending onslaught. The forest thinned, and the fortified walls of the outpost came into view. Kalen's team poured inside, immediately setting to work on reinforcing their defenses. As the last of his team entered, Kalen took a deep breath, steeling himself for the battle to come. "This is just the vanguard," he thought, his jaw clenched. "The real battle is about to begin." Outside, the alien forces regrouped, their commander, Zaruk Torvek, at the forefront. His eyes gleamed with anticipation as he prepared to crush the human resistance. The siege of New Terra was about to begin, and Kalen knew they were in for the fight of their lives. Kalen's team burst into the outpost, adrenaline fueling their every move. The fortified walls provided a brief respite, but Kalen knew it wouldn't last. He barked orders, his voice steady despite the urgency. "Barricade the entrance. Set up defensive positions. We hold this ground." Lyra, her face smeared with dirt and determination, nodded sharply. "Got it, sir." She and the others moved with practiced efficiency, stacking crates and reinforcing barriers. The outpost, though small, was strategically positioned with high walls and a clear line of sight to the forest edge. As Kalen helped reinforce a barricade, his mind raced. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but he had faith in his team's skills and resilience. He glanced at the horizon, where the sun was beginning to dip, casting long shadows across the landscape. "Kalen," Lyra called, her voice breaking his thoughts. "What's the plan if they breach the walls?" We improvise, Kalen replied, his tone grim but resolute. We'll use the environment to our advantage. They may have numbers, but we have ingenuity. The ground trembled as the alien forces approached, their footsteps a sinister drumbeat. Kalen climbed to a vantage point, surveying the enemy. Zaruk Torvek stood at the forefront, a menacing figure, his eyes fixed on the outpost. The sight of him stirred a fierce resolve within Kalen. They're coming, Kalen announced, his voice echoing through the outpost. Hold your positions and remember your training. We've faced worse odds before. The first wave hit with brutal force. Plasma bolts lit up the dusk, slamming into the outpost's defenses. Kalen's team responded with disciplined ferocity, their unarmed combat skills surprising the alien attackers. Using makeshift weapons and sheer physical prowess, they turned the tide, if only momentarily. Amidst the chaos, Kalen fought with unwavering determination. He grappled with an alien soldier, using its own momentum to hurl it against the wall. Nearby, Lyra moved like a shadow, striking swiftly and retreating into the safety of the outpost. Despite their efforts, the relentless assault took its toll. The outpost's walls began to buckle under the continuous barrage. Kalen, breathing heavily, knew they couldn't hold out much longer. His mind worked furiously, searching for a solution. As the second wave prepared to launch, Kalen spotted a vulnerability in the enemy's formation, a slight gap in their ranks. It was a slim chance, but it could buy them precious time. "Team, on me," Kalen shouted. "We're going to break their line. Aim for the gap and push through." His team rallied around him, their faces set with grim determination. Together, they charged, a surge of human tenacity crashing against the alien might. Just as they began to make headway, a low rumble echoed across the battlefield. Kalen looked up to see the alien reinforcements ship descending, its massive shadow casting a pall over their hard-won ground. "Hold the line," Kalen yelled, even as uncertainty gnawed at his gut. The true test of their resolve was about to begin. The outpost trembled as the alien reinforcement ship landed with a thunderous thud, its descent kicking up a cloud of dust and debris. The alien soldiers, emboldened by the arrival of their massive vessel, pressed the attack with renewed vigor. The night sky was illuminated by the fiery streaks of plasma bolts and the ominous glow of the ship's thrusters. Kalen stood atop a makeshift barricade, his gaze fixed on the enemy's reinforcements. "They're throwing everything they've got at us," he said to Lyra, who crouched beside him, her face smeared with sweat and grime. "We need to turn this around," Lyra replied, her voice tense but determined. "What's the plan?" Kalen's eyes darted across the battlefield, assessing their position. The outpost's defenses were holding, but just barely. The alien soldiers were systematically dismantling their barricades, and the ship's energy beams were causing significant damage. "We're going to use their overconfidence against them," Kalen said, formulating a plan. "If we can create chaos within their ranks, we might be able to split their forces." He leaped down from the barricade and gathered his team, their faces reflecting the grim reality of their situation. "Listen up. We're going to set traps and lure them into a kill zone. We need to make them think they're winning." The team nodded, understanding the high stakes. They set about their tasks with focused efficiency, laying down traps and preparing surprise counterattacks. Kalen and Lyra moved quickly, using the terrain to their advantage. The outpost's narrow passages and hidden alcoves would become their battlefield, a place where their training in unarmed combat could truly shine. As the aliens pushed forward, their soldiers eager to crush the human resistance, they fell into the traps laid by Kalen's team. Explosions and sudden bursts of energy erupted from hidden positions, creating confusion and disarray among the alien ranks. Kalen fought fiercely, his movements precise and powerful. Each strike was calculated, each maneuver a testament to his team's rigorous training. He could see the frustration building in Zaruk Torvek's eyes as his forces struggled to adapt to the unexpected tactics. In the midst of the chaos, Kalen spotted Zaruk leading a charge directly toward their command center. The warlord's imposing figure cut through the confusion, his eyes locked on the heart of their defense. Kalen's heart raced as he realized that the outpost's command center was in grave danger. Team, we've got a priority target, Kalen said urgently. Zarok is heading for the command center. We need to intercept him and hold the line. As his team rallied to intercept Zarok, the tension in the air was palpable. Kalen's thoughts raced, calculating their next moves. The outcome of this battle hung in the balance, and every decision counted. The moment Zarok's imposing figure came into view, Kalen and his team readied themselves for the confrontation. With every step Zarok took, the stakes of their desperate stand grew higher. The command center of the outpost stood under a relentless assault as Zarok Torvek advanced with a fearsome intensity. Kalen's team, battered but unbroken, prepared for the pivotal clash. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and the sound of battle cries. Kalen, breathless and determined, focused on the warlord. Zarok's headed straight for us, Kalen said, rallying his team. We have one chance to turn this around. Let's make it count. Lyra and the others readied themselves, their faces set with grim resolve. They were tired, their bodies aching, but their spirits remained unyielding. Kalen's strategic plan hinged on exploiting the vulnerability they had discovered in the aliens' armor. They needed to act fast and decisively. As Zarok neared the command center, his imposing figure cutting a swath through the chaos, Kalen's team launched their counterattack. They utilized every trick in their playbook, disabling alien technology, exploiting weaknesses, and employing guerrilla tactics. The air crackled with energy and the sharp sound of combat as Kalen and his team engaged Zaruk's elite guards. Kalen confronted Zaruk directly, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and adrenaline. Zarok's eyes burned with a cold fire as he swung a massive energy weapon with deadly precision. Kalen dodged, the weapon's hum a menacing reminder of the stakes. You humans are a stubborn lot, Zarok snarled, his voice reverberating with disdain. But your resistance ends here. We're just getting started, Kalen shot back, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. With a calculated move, he deflected Zarok's swing and retaliated with a swift strike aimed at the warlord's exposed side. The clash was intense and brutal. Despite the strength of his opponent, Kalen's training and agility allowed him to exploit Zarok's overconfidence. With every move, Kalen aimed to push Zarok off balance, targeting the weak points in his armor. Amid the battle, Kalen noticed that the alien forces were becoming increasingly disorganized. The chaos was taking its toll, and Zarok's commanding presence was wavering. Kalen seized the moment, delivering a decisive blow that sent Zarok staggering backward. We're making progress, Lyra shouted over the comms. Keep pushing. Kalen took advantage of Zarok's momentary weakness, pressing the attack with renewed vigor. His team, energized by the shift in momentum, pressed forward, their coordinated strikes turning the tide of the battle. Just as Kalen seemed to gain the upper hand, a new threat emerged. Alien reinforcements, previously unseen, began to deploy from the descending ship. The battlefield was far from secure, and Kalen knew they needed to act quickly to maintain their advantage. We need to finish this, Kalen urged his team, before the reinforcements tip the scales against us. With a final, determined push, Kalen and his team redoubled their efforts. The outcome of the battle and the fate of New Terra hinged on their ability to withstand the incoming wave and exploit every opportunity. The battlefield roared as alien reinforcements surged forth, their numbers threatening to overwhelm the outpost. Kalen's team, battle-worn but resolute, regrouped and prepared for the final stand. The night air was thick with tension, punctuated by the blasts of plasma bolts and the distant hum of alien engines. Kalen glanced at his team, their faces reflecting a mix of exhaustion and determination. We've held them back this far, he said, his voice carrying over the din. Now it's time to end this. Lyra, her brow furrowed with focus, responded with a fierce nod. We're with you. What's the plan? The reinforcements are our immediate threat, Kalen said, pointing to the newly arrived alien troops. We need to disrupt their formation and buy time for our counteroffensive. His team moved into action, setting up improvised barricades and deploying last-ditch traps. The outpost's walls were battered, but they held. Kalen and his squad positioned themselves strategically, ready to spring their final gambit. The reinforcements advanced, their heavy footsteps shaking the ground. Kalen observed their approach, noting the patterns in their movements. As the aliens closed in, he signaled his team. Now, with precision, the team triggered a series of explosives and energy disruptors. The chaos erupted, alien soldiers stumbling and disoriented as their advanced technology malfunctioned. Kalen and his team seized the opportunity, launching a coordinated assault that pushed the aliens back. Zarok Torvek, still recovering from his previous encounter with Kalen, roared in frustration. "You think you can stop me?" he bellowed, rallying his troops for a renewed charge. Kalen, panting but unyielding, faced Zarok with steely resolve. "We've come too far to back down now." The two combatants clashed once more, their struggle a fierce dance of power and strategy. Kalen's agility and tactical acumen were tested against Zarok's brute strength and fury. Each strike was a test of endurance and skill, a battle of wills as much as physical prowess. In a decisive move, Kalen maneuvered Zarok into a vulnerable position, exploiting a crack in his armor. With a final powerful strike, he incapacitated the warlord. Zarok fell, his troops witnessing the fall of their leader. "Push them back," Kalen shouted to his team, his voice carrying over the battlefield. "We've got them on the ropes." With Zarok defeated, the alien forces faltered. The tide of the battle turned as Kalen's team pressed their advantage. The reinforcements, disheartened by the loss of their leader, began to retreat. As dawn broke, the once chaotic battlefield lay quiet. The outpost stood battered but victorious. Kalen surveyed the scene, his heart swelling with pride and relief. "We did it," he said, his voice weary but triumphant. "We held New Terra." His team gathered around him, their expressions reflecting the hard-fought victory. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged not only as survivors, but as heroes. The battle was over, but the echoes of their bravery would resonate for years to come.